Yeah, boy, pigs that a guy that likes talking about series of anime because it's easier to say what ifs on that because you know I'm just gonna say it. What ifs are just easier storytelling because you can just grab characters that you like from an anime or a series, then just put them in a what if scenario, and then just make up a whole series. And since the characters are already like drawn out, you can just put some fixes in there, and then you can just boom, bang, boom, what if, easy. But still, you have to still write meaningful characters, and the character people must feel sad that they died. But anyway, let's continue where we left off. So, Deku, obviously Deku doesn't know what he was doing before this, but he was walking, but then he decided to just go eat something because he's starving. It was like there was a growl in his tum tum. And so he found this guy who was crawling on the ground. Don't worry, it's not a zombie. Sucks for the guy though, because he's like coughing and screaming not to die. But Deku just crushes his head and eats him, which then craves Deku's hunger. And then Deku hears a little bark bark. And then he looks to see this little baby boy. Little baby doggy. It's so cute. It's so fluffy. It's a black puppy. It's very cute. So Deku says it, and then he starts snapping his fingers, which Deku just knows how to do snap his fingers now. And so the dog starts walking over to him with his very cute demeanor, just patting his feet down, down, down. And Deku puts it into his hand because the dog is so small it can fit in Deku's hand. And then the doggo just sits in Deku's hair. And then Deku starts walking with the doggy with it in his hair. And then we get a time skip. Well, obviously we can tell it's a time skip because the dog starts growing to the fact where it can't grow in Deku's hand, and it just keeps growing until it becomes a bear dog. By that, I mean it's a dog with black hair with very big features and is massive, where the point where Deku can ride on it. And Deku does ride on the dog most of the time, trying to get people. Obviously, the dog is not a meat eater because Deku only eats humans, and so does the dog. So, and then Deku, goes on a hunt with the dog, telling it that they're gonna need to get this base. By the way, there is a base with less security than the one Baku's at, but still. They jump him. Yeah, just killing all of them. The dog almost gets hit by a bullet, but Deku just blocks it with his own body, and then kills the guy with a with a with the guy's organs, hanging him with them. He tore them out, made a rope around him, stabbing them to a post, and then strangling him with it. And he threw him off it, and then snapped his neck and killing him. And then they killed all the people, and then they start marching on them. And Deku heals even more, actually gaining some muscle now because he's eating so much. And they're just chilling with the puppo. Yeah, it's basically just running into other things. Sorry. Stop. But anyways, Deku is with his doggo, munching on some people, until now that they're walking, then this group of people in a car start gunning down zombies, but only in their legs, killing most of them except one. Then they tried to extract its blood, so Deku got interested, getting on his dog, and then the dog starts sprinting. Then Deku gets on top of it standing, and then jumps towards the people, bashing one of their heads against one of the tires, putting the car in reverse, crushing the guy's head, then breaking someone else's knees, tearing out the bone, and then stabbing them in the head with it, killing them, obviously. No, I didn't even say that. But then, and then he grabs the gun off the guy who he just stabbed and shoots the third guy, the guy who was driving the vehicle. So, yeah. And then Deku hears the being, then just tears off the door. The dog finally shows up and starts eating one of the guys. And then finds this GPS, breaking it off the dashboard. Not even trying to, like, gently take it off, just broke it straight off. Now Deku goes to his okay. But Deku is now with obviously Deku follows the GPS with less difficulty than you thought. He just followed the lines. Finally finding this outpost, but it's way more secure than the one they just went to. And so they find the girls are waiting. Okay. But where he finds very maximum. Then something weird happens. Someone says stage name and password. And then he clicks a button, not knowing what to do, where it says, "It's Rick, asshole, open the door." Fine, Rick. And then the door's open with two guards sighing and then getting freaking petrified. Then Deku blitzes them, putting both their barrels into their mouths, and they already were pulling the trigger, so they got their heads blown off. Why? They're about to shoot Deku, of course. And he just told the dog to sit. Yeah, Deku just blitzes all of them, killing all of them, pushing some of them off cliffs, some just tearing off their heads, tearing off spines, strangling other people with the said spine he just tore out. Then he just slaughters all of them, then whistling. If you're wondering how the fuck did Deku just whistle, he has a whistle. You know, like a plastic whistle that he found off a random guy he found. Remember, he can still groan, so technically he can still whistle. To whistle. Big brain. And the dog runs in and then starts eating. Now. Anyways, this is exactly what I feel right now since I recorded this. This is the second recording of a broadcast. It took me a whole hour to record the other one, and I thought it was really good. And then bada bing, bada boom, no fucking audio. Are you kidding me? That was so frustrating. I'm really tired right now. It's like 3 in the morning. Anyways, just ignore my sleeping schedule for 2 seconds. For an hour. But now we can ignore my sleeping schedule for like 60 minutes. So. Now Deku is with his... Well, now it starts munching on people until an alarm sounds, and then this big, buff-ass guy shows up. He's big. He's like Reinhardt big. And then, yeah, he has a massive mallet. And Deku just says the dog to sit. By sit, he snaps, and the dog sits. And Deku walks up on the guy, staring upwards with a groan, and the guy with the sledgehammer just staring down at Deku. So Deku tries lunging for the guy's throat. The guy dodges, hits Deku in the knees, breaking them, but Deku grabs onto the guy's sledgehammer, breaking the guy's wrist to tear it all out of his hands. Then he breaks that guy's ankles, which actually makes him fall over because he feels pain. And then Deku just blows up his head with the sledgehammer, killing him. then he just eats the guy to regenerate his knee. And then he picks up the sledgehammer, slapping it into his hand sometimes, whistling for the dog to get up. And then they walk into the building and just slaughter everyone left. Except for this one doctor, which Deku could tell it was a doctor this time. He had a chest coat on. Who we just thought was trying to extract some blood. So he decides to place his hammer into the umbrella rack, and then sits down and waits. And the doctor, being scared of the big dog, who's just waiting for his owner to do something, but he just knows if he does something, his owner will be mad at him, and he would not like that. Because he's a good boy dog. Because that dog is a good boy dog. Deku just calls him Big Boy in his brain. So basically, every time he snaps, whistles, he's thinking Big Boy. Big Boy, and then whistles, and Big Boy, snap. And that's all. And the guy then just decides, this could be my chance to discover a cure, because I was there. Then we get a flashback to a couple, before the outbreak. A couple weeks before the outbreak. And so the guy then finds this guy who came in with a busted up foot. Like, this thing is bleeding and swollen and looks purple. And the guy starts crying, telling him to remove it. Please remove it. He hates having this thing on him. Kill him, remove, please. And he's slurring. He's in so much pain. He's yelling, please remove it. Yeah, this man is losing his damn mind just having this stupid fucking foot on him. This thing is disgustingly pulsating. And the doctor gets him on a table to work on his foot until he gets it off. But the guy is still screaming in pain, even though the guy did a perfect surgery to get rid of the foot. He's still screaming to get the foot off. He still feels the pain, even though his foot is completely gone. He keeps saying his foot is still there. Please get rid of it, please. And then the guy gets sent to a mental hospital. Obviously, the guy got some blood samples because, he was testing what happened to him. And then he ran some tests and realized this guy made a whole new fucking disease. The disease is, I feel massive amounts of pain, even if I get rid of the pain, it's still there. It starts with you getting a cut. Then the virus gets to you. Then it makes that cutted body part swole, and then it makes you pus and yell and want it removed. But then the police bring in a body that has the same symptoms as that other guy, but the guy tore out his own. He tore out his entire torso because he couldn't bear the pain. And they also kept saying that. They also explained that the body was not a drug addict. Actually, was clean of anything. He's never gone to prison. He went to high school. He had a loving family. He just couldn't bear the pain. He had such a nice family too. He said he murdered all of them because they kept saying they wouldn't fix the pain. They can't fix the pain, so he just killed them because they were, quote unquote, an infection by themselves, anyways, and killed them because that is what their neighbor heard. And then they went to check on the guy, and then they found him sprawled on the ground with his organs and body torn off. You're wondering why the doctor is learning about the morgue situation. He's a morgue doctor, a health doctor. He's even an orthodontist or a tooth guy. And a dentist. He's basically every single doctor, but rolled into one. Even an inventor too. But anyways, we finally end the flashback. But the guy, no, we don't end the flashback. And then the guy starts extracting the guy's disgusting blood, and finds another patient who wants to get his hand removed, his arm removed because his shoulder has gotten the pain, and he wants his whole arm removed, even though they could just remove his. Yeah, he wants his whole arm removed, please. Obviously, they can't just remove his arm because they wouldn't. They can't just remove his arm because they just can't. They really can't. They want to run some tests, and the guy uh, being fine unless hoping he'd get his arm removed afterwards. And yeah, he did get his arm removed. He just got some blood samples from him, ran some tests on the guy's blood and his other parts of body blood. They weren't the same. All the pus-filled, blooded arm, a shoulder thing, had different types of blood. So then the guy told him, yeah, I'll remove your arm now. And so he removed the arm. But this time, the guy said, he said, um, thank you. Finally, the pain's gone. But then the guy rolled over dead. But this is also surprising to everyone else because that doctor saved a man from a nuclear explosion. Now the person's almost half entirely robot, but he lived. Just because he lost his arm does not mean the guy just died. This guy is professional. He's really good at this. How did the guy just die from moving his arm? So the guy starts panicking and calls in other doctors and nurses because this guy's having a full-on panic attack because the guy died right in front of him, thanking him because the guy was thanking him for killing him. You know how fucking painful that would be? Like, you're a doctor, and then the guy wakes up from, like, the surgery and says thank you, and then dies in front of your eyes. That must be the most painful experience a human being could experience. Be honest. And then the guy he just needs to make a cure. He stays up for so many days trying to figure out a cure, and then he thinks he made a cure, and another guy comes in and he says he has a cure. He has an experimental cure, and if he chooses to use it, if he chooses to take, and then the guy just says immediately, yes, please take, please, and he starts crying at the same time. As you can see, there's a bunch of symptoms to this. It's where you feel so much pain that you lose all human emotion except pain and suffering. So the guy puts the antidote, quote unquote, yeah, you get it. Then the guy starts twitching astronomically, flinging out the needle, and then the needle stabs into the wall. Okay, and then guess who appears? It's then the zombie. Then the guy starts twitching, absolutely innocuously. The doctor is like shocked because he didn't know his cure, quote unquote, would do this. Obviously, then the disgusting mass on his shoulders, on his leg starts getting bigger, and then the guy tries to run for the doctor, but a nurse jumps in front of him, and then that doctor gets bit in the hand, and he starts screaming in pain. And then the other doctor runs off. The doctor were the Then our doctor runs away in fear and runs to the safe room. And then that nurse eventually becomes a zombie, and then we get some flash things until we get to this bald zombie that got bit in the neck, and then was running around, and then we see its vision look, and it sees Deku, which bites Deku's abdomen, and then he starts turning, and then that zombie just kept running, and then we get Deku waking up. And then the flashback ends. Well, we get Deku opening his eyes, and then the flashback ends. Yep, the whole reason Deku's a zombie right now is because of that motherfucker right there. And then the flashback ends with the guy telling the zombie, if you can hear me, zombie, then I would like to run some tests. Is that okay? And then zombie Deku nods his head, which the guy gets shocked at, but still breathes and just takes it in, hoping the zombie doesn't just eat him. So he takes some blood test, and he realizes that is a Deku is a new specimen of his, because you know the hillbillies that Deku killed. They've been collecting a lot of blood samples from different zombies, and this is the only sample that's been different from all the rest. Like he does take out another sample, and uh, he takes out another zombie sample and looks at the two, and they're distinctly different. And so Deku, and of course he's impressed by this and is a bit shocked too, because this zombie's full of surprises, isn't he? And then he starts running more tests on Deku until Deku gets up with his stomach growling and loudly, and then the guy just tells him, "Please leave. I'll see you later, okay?" And then Deku just immediately leaves with his dog, whistling for the dog to leave. And then the doctor says, "I could maybe I could make a cure off this guy." And he starts breathing heavily and starts coughing in a bit of pain and holding his gut. "I gotta do it quickly though. I don't got a lot of time left." And then Deku gets to then Deku leaves, eats a lot of zombies, and finally thinks to put some new. He actually just eats a lot of people. He doesn't really know what to do, so he just. Then he realizes what he's wearing, which is uh, no shoes, barely any pants. Basically, his dong is almost hanging out, and his shirt's gone. So then he goes to a clothing shop, then puts on some different kinds of clothes. He likes all the styles he's getting, but he lands on a bit of a black shirt with a jean jacket on the other half of it, then black pants and uh, and then his and then Deku puts some tie-on shoes. They're pretty basic looking shoes, and then he finds chains weirdly in this in this area. Then he puts on the chains and likes them. And then he sees a white pair of headphones, and he thinks, "What is that?" And then we get a flashback to Deku buying those same pair of earphones from this exact store when he was still human. And so he immediately just takes them, puts them on, clicks a Bluetooth, which weirdly connects to something, but Deku doesn't know what. And so then Deku tries to find the signal, and then he finds this AirPod that had a lot of that said it would infinitely play this list, and it had almost a million songs on it. And Deku just got to the first one, so Deku puts it in his back pocket of his black pants, and then he heads out. And then he finally, and the dog is just chilling with a bone in his mouth outside the store. And then Deku decides to try finding a base of operations. So then he walks to the doctor again. The doctor obviously cleaning up a whole bunch of bodies and stacking them into a pile. What the guy says he's not. Then the guy didn't. Deku was surprised that the guy didn't burn it until the doctor runs out, saying that the only reason he didn't burn them is because Oh, actually, he'd probably say, "Zombie, you came back?" And then the zombie obviously Deku nods, and the doctor says, "Do you want me to take more tests?" And Deku nods again, and the doctor runs to one of the bodies, grabbing them from the pile, then throwing the body at Deku, which Deku just catches it, and then walks with the doctor. And the doctor starts mumbling about how how he's been testing other zombies with fruits, and they all were just not looking at it. And since I'm hoping that you are very committed to these tests, I would like to ask you to try eating one of them. And then Deku raises an eyebrow, not remembering what a fruit, veggie, or any other kind of meat is. All he remembers is meat. That's it. He doesn't know what a fruit or a vegetable is. Then the guy uh, places down the body and then gives Deku a tomato. I hate tomatoes, by the way. I just want to say that. It's not important to the plot at all, but still, I hate tomatoes. So, Deku uh, eats the tomato. Obviously, nothing really weird happens. He just eats it casually, like a like an apple, nothing else. He just chills there until his gut starts growling, and then his gut explodes. All organs and lungs are just peeling out of there, and then Deku groans with the dog batting on the corpse that Deku brought in his hand, and so Deku just stumbles over to the body and then starts knobbing on the guy, and then eventually the guy's arm and basically half of his body is gone after Deku's finished, and then he fully regenerates. And then the doctor checks, and then he shows Deku his list, some endurance training and other things. And so Deku takes the endurance test, which now the endurance test is running. He runs for the entire day. The doctor goes to sleep because he has to keep time, and the guy, obviously Deku, is the dog was just chilling with the owner. Um, the dog actually starts warming up to the doctor, and the doctor notices. And then the dog finally experiences a pet again. He hasn't felt that in a while, because Deku doesn't know what the fuck a pet is. A pet, like, a pet. So the dog warms up to the doctor gives him the dog food often. So the doctor finally gets the trust of the the dog, Big Boy. I think it's Big Boy. Yeah, Big Boy, and which is really cool. Now, and then the doctor falls asleep. By the way, he falls asleep while Deku is running, and Deku walks up to him, taking off his jean jacket and putting it over the doctor. Then he puts the dog. Then he puts the guy on the ground and tells the dog to lay next to him. Obviously, the dog lays next to him because he trusts the doctor. And then he's just chilling with the doctor, and Deku thinks, I wonder why I'm not eating you. But it doesn't matter. I just hope we can be on an agreement where you won't kill me. Or I won't kill you. Or my dog won't kill you. And Deku actually chuckles, which shocks Deku because he hasn't been able to chuckle in a while. Because his zombie body can't physically chuckle. But it chuckled, which surprised Deku because he hasn't been able to chuckle, obviously. But anyways, then the next day, the doctor wakes up with the jean jacket and the dog next to him. And then he moves, the dog wakes up and just walks with the doctor who holds the jean jacket. Deku's just sitting in the chair where the doctor took his first test. And then obviously the doctor gives Deku's jean jacket back, and Deku puts it on. The doctor says, thanks for letting me run some tests yesterday. Well, let's get down to the rest of the list. And then we get a montage of Deku's regeneration factor, endurance, intelligence, even writing skill. And weirdly, Deku actually writes something. It's not. It's. It's something. It's I. Yeah, all Deku writes is I. With he just dots and then slides down. It's even a lowercase I, not an uppercase. That's it. That's all of. That's Deku. Ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. Deku got him. Deku. Wait. Come on. Deku finds. Yeah, then the montage ends, and then it's been a long time where the Doctor uh, is getting more and more uh, old looking, but actually is the same age as as the calendar hasn't fully changed. It's almost at the end, and then and then almost the final week, Deku is fully healed. He looks really nice. He actually looks like a human. Well, still, you can obviously individuate him from a human. He's still a zombie, but just has a more physical build again. And then then the Doctor gets, starts coughing out blood and is now eating less, and the dog notices, and so does the Deku. But Deku thinks he just should just go find some medicine for the Doctor, because that's what helps. That's what helps humans, right? That's what helped his past body when he was a baby. And so Deku leaves the dog with the Doctor and leaves the area. But something bad happens before he leaves. He gets a bit of a warning in his brain, something bad's going to happen. But he assumes it's just a feeling. Oh boy, you wish it was just a feeling. So Deku comes back with the medicine. Well, he was picking up the medicine, looking outside, and then saw a very lengthy, crusty creature with barely pupilled eyes, with a big smile on its face, looking around, but didn't go for Deku for some reason. And so Deku just left the thing to look for whatever it was looking for. But then it runs, not at Deku, but runs past Deku, and then grabs a guy who was just looking at the creature as well, and Deku. And yeah, so the pupilled creature, and the guy yells, "Creepy!" Some other guy yells "creepy," and then the creepy, Deku just doesn't know what a creepy is, but he'll assume the creepy is that thing, and then the creepy just completely slaughters them with its knife quirk. And then Deku hasn't seen anyone else use their quirk, which it turns out, Deku makes a theory that all the quirk people are now weaker, but all these creatures, I guess creepers, their quirks are now enhanced. And then Deku then walks off, not even caring about the people that are getting slaughtered behind him. And then when he gets back to the Doctor, he goes into the area which is being awfully quiet because the Doctor mumbles a lot. And then he walks into this area, and then he walks into the area where he left the Doctor, where his dog is completely and utterly mangled. Its jaw is off, its head is just pummeled, and its guts are all over the place, and its fur is almost torn completely off. And then he sees a zombie munching on something's back, and then he knows this zombie killed his dog. So he takes the zombie, and then starts freaking tearing into it, just murdering it, pummeling it, breaking concrete, almost destroying the ground beneath him, obviously killing this fucking disgusting zombie. And now it's dead. And now Deku cries, which he hasn't done in a while, And then he sees that the doctor was the one that got killed. But turns out the doctor had a bullet through his head. He realized, with the gun next to the doctor's hand. And then he found a note under the doctor, blood-stained a bit, but he could still read it. And then the doctor then says, I am sorry, zombie. I didn't get to learn your name, but you never got to learn mine. It's, Horner, by the way. Zombie. And, to be honest with you, I was on borrowed time. There are some notes in my cabinet, if you could use them. I hope you could use them. Zombie. No, I can't just keep calling you zombie. I'll give you a name, buddy. It's Z. I hope you can accept that name as your own. And then the doctor explains that he had terminal cancer in his lung, and he just killed himself because he couldn't deal with the pain anymore, and he just wanted to be with his family again. His daughter, she died before he could say goodbye. And then and I hope, I'm sorry to leave your dog alone though, but he's definitely safe. I hope he's safe with me gone. And Deku cries, missing the doctor and his dog. He misses Big Boy and will always miss him. No matter how many zombies he kills, or how many creepers or humans he kills or eats, it won't replace his dog. Or the dog. The deck comes up the paper, drops it to the ground, and then leaves. In a very depressing looking way. And then eventually Deku, he puts his headphones back on. By the way, he's been keeping them somewhere else while he's been with the doctor, because he hasn't felt like eating anything. That isn't the doctor. That wasn't the doctor. If it wasn't the doctor, then he would eat it. And then he finally puts the headphones back on, viewing out the world. Basically how you feel when you lose family. It feels like the world is muted, and it's just not there anymore. Deku walks off, wandering the world again, by himself. And then we see Deku having a backpack on that had her Hamlet. If you're wondering who Hamlet is, it's the doctor's name. The doctor's last name. Hamlet. And then, what is it? And then we cut to Baku's point of view. Well, we see him gearing up for something and training until this gray-looking with a horn, a gray-looking girl, gray-haired looking girl with a horn on her head, with some red eyes, says, "Are you ready, Sensei?" And then Bakugo looks behind him saying, "Are you ready, Eri?" Surprise, it's Eri! Whoa! And that's really cool. And then also Kodo shows up, obviously you can tell because of his hat. And of course, and then he just starts sighing, saying, "Okay, you ready, Doc, Sensei?" So, you ready, Sensei? Yeah. Let's just wait for my husband for a second, okay? And then Kirishima shows up. Not fight me on it, you bet you won't. Okay. Deku is the... No, Bakugo then remembers the time with Sato and Sero, just reasoning out during the times with his friends. And then he decides to go into the car. He decides to run up the old buggy. Obviously, the cars have been a bit more advanced now. But anyways, they get in their cars, and the Deku Bakugo's car, the Boomernator. Legit, he called his car the Boomernator. Stupidest name ever. But anyways, Baku drives down the street to find more supplies for the group, with Eri, Koda, and Kyushu. So they're driving around, and Eri then starts explaining the fact about her, before the pandemic. She says that she was a orphan that was brought in by a mafia boss, but his secondary killed him with his quirk, and then she became a test subject for him. But, when the pandemic started, the guy got mauled to death. And then Koda then explains his backstory, where before the pandemic he had two a mom and a dad, but they were taken away by a villain. But after that, all of the other family died too, because they were heroes. And they died protecting me. But, how about you, Bakugo? It's sensei, but, yeah, before the pandemic, I also had a mom and a dad. And then we get a flashback a bit of Bakugo's mom and, Mitsuki and his dad, Bakugo's dad, got bitten, and Baku had to pull out a gun. Then we hear a gunshot before Baku wakes up from his flashback and says, "My parents died from zombies as well." And Kirishima says that he just lost his two moms. That he lost his two moms a while back, but when the pandemic started, they died, and so he had to run away in fear. So they had to die for his safety, and they were glad to die like that. He hoped that they were happy that he was still alive. And of course they are. Why would you doubt that, my boy? But anyways, Deku's with Bakugo, and he holds Bakugo's hand, saying, "At least I was able to find love like they were able to." And Baku blushes, of course, saying, "Stop. There's kids in the car." "Speaking of kids," Kirishima says, Baku says, "we're not starting this conversation." "Come on, but Mina said she would." "But I don't want to start the conversation, okay, Kirishima?" "There's kids near." And then he turns back, and then Kirishima looks, seeing Eri and Koda just whistling in disgust. Yeah, they already know about the whole intercourse and stuff, but still, it's disgusting to hear two married couples talk about it. Especially with two people they barely know. All they know is that they're sensei. That they're their senseis for the day. Well, for their years, for their lives, if they ever have. But anyways, they were driving until Eri brought up the fact that she hopes they don't run into any creepies. And then Baku says, "We probably won't. They really are pretty rare." And then Koda says, "What's a creepy?" "You don't..." Baku says, "You don't know what a creepy is?" "No, I only know what a zombie is." "Boy, let me tell you. A creepy is a stronger zombie. These zombies are called, well, of course, creepies. because they're even creepier than a zombie. Because these creepies, they keep their quirks, but just enhance their strength and bone structure. When it starts, the person's bones start cracking. You can hear it. And then they grow in size. Then their skin starts to burn off. No one knows why their skin starts to burn, but it just does. And then their skin becomes all flaky, and then their pupils dilate. Then then they start smiling and laughing, crackling. Then their mouth stops with a dead smile, but their quirks say. And people say that a mutant creepy takes other creepies and attaches it to itself. But anyways, that is why Ari says she hopes we don't run into one. And so obviously a creepy shows up, bashing into their fucking vehicle. This creepy then tears their car in half, throwing two sides apart. So now the creepy runs towards Eri and and Kirishima, which Kirishima blocks the creepy's strength with his own. Obviously, the creepy can't bite into him because actually the creepy just wants to kill Kirishima. He doesn't want to eat him, so it starts punching down on Kirishima and pushing him down. And obviously, Eri doesn't know what to do because, well, actually, she pulls out a fucking Glocka and then starts blasting at the creepy. And then Baku also pulls out his AR, I think, and then starts lighting up the creepy from the back. And then Kodo puts some cover fire on the left side of the creepy, the right side of the creepy. Then it starts getting lit up, and then Kirishima finally wakes up, tripping the creepy, which obviously their bullets just aimed with the creepy while it fell. And then Kirishima finally was able to pull out his gun and start shooting at the creepy. So the creepy was being suppressed by bullets, but until their clips ran out, and so immediately the creepy gets back up, goes for Koda, and then pimp slaps it. Koda barely being alive, slamming into a car. From that one slap, and Bakugo gets up with his new and carved knife and starts cutting at the creepy, but the creepy just tries to punch at Baku, but Baku sees his opening, stabbing into the creepy's elbow, and then tearing off the arm. Obviously, the creepy, feeling no pain, goes to punch Bakugo, but Kirishima blocks it with his power, because protecting his boyfriend and husband, until Eri shows up with her bigger gun and starts laying fire into the creepy's head. But the creepy just eats it, all of it, and finally overpowering Kirishima, popping him to the ground, and then pimp slapping Eri, like he just did to Koda, popping her on the ground in pain. Then Bakugo finally feeling rage again. He hasn't felt a lot of rage in a while, so he finally throws the with an explosion. The creepy keeps getting eaten by explosives, and then after Bakugo gets tired, then the creepy is revealed to be completely dead. Its body is all over the place, dead. And then Bakugo is heavily breathing, of course, and then picks up all his friends and then puts them against the car. Until they regenerate not regenerate, but when they finally get some energy, they go looking for a car. Until they find the car, but the car is occupied, because when they open it, guess who's just chilling there, looking at a dictionary, And then Deku looks, and then they look, and then they pull out their guns. Deku just blitzes all of them, taking their guns. The only reason he didn't kill all of them is because there was this, because the guy he saved was there, and he wants to know why the fuck he saved this guy. So he just throws their guns back, and then then Deku says, I'm Z. No, Z. I-Z? Because they're too shocked to actually say this anything, so Deku just assumes he said it wrong, so uh, Z is I. Z is I, and then they finally repeat, yeah, your name's Z, but you're talking. Is Z not supposed to talk? No. Z does not understand. Neither do we. But, do you still have my knife? Which Baku explains. Then Deku just reaches into his own gut, and then Eri and Kota barf. And they throws Bakugo his knife back, then regenerating after pulling out a human hand. And then Eri tries to go for her gun, but Deku just breaks her arm. Yeah, you're not a freaking go for the gun without Deku breaking you. So Eri walks back. It's weird how timelines can be different. Anyways, then Z starts explaining that he would like to study them and wonder who they are. And Baku is now chilling with no car, says they'll just take the car and leave. I'll go with you. Are you serious? Yeah, I want to learn who you people are, so I'm going to be with you. And then they just say, fine, but only for our stakeout. After this, you're gone, Deku says. Fair, I'll just meet you again someday. And he gets into the back of the truck, then just sits there waiting for them to go. And then they start driving, and then Deku pulls out a notebook, and Baku looks, thinking of his friend Deku, and then everyone's a bit shocked because Deku starts writing in perfect sentences. The first thing he learned was writing, then the second thing he's learning is reading, speaking. If you're wondering why it's speaking, it's because he ate so many people that his voice box just healed. And then now he's taking notes about who Bakugo is and his personality and who he has a relationship with. Obviously, he says married to Kirishima, might be wanting children, and, the list goes on. Until they run into not only one, but two creepies. They're both fighting each other, but they turn to look at them, and then they just look at each other, and then look back at them, and then just sprint at them, ignoring the fact that they were just trying to murder each other just 2 seconds ago. So then they try to get the car, but Deku jumps in front of the car, tackling them before they hit the car, so Baku and them can stop, swerve them, and then drift, and then get out of the car and start shooting at the creepies. Which Deku, of course, being the more special zombie, isn't going to just lose to some creepies. So Bakugo then throws his old knife at Deku, which Deku catches and starts shanking at them, tearing open their bodies and tearing off one of their arms. But eventually the creepy throws him at the other creepy, which the creepy gets frustrated at and tries to punch Deku, but Deku stabs their hand, opening up their hand, which splits their hand. And then Deku goes for the head, but the creepy blocks it with their other hand that isn't cut, and starts pushing Deku away, but Deku then hits the ground, breaks into concrete, and then tears off the other arm, the creepy's the arm off. Eventually he tears the knife out, then getting for the knees, tearing the creepy's knees off. The creepy's then hopping on one foot, and then Deku is able to get a clean tiny throat stab and then punches the hilt of the knife into the creepy's throat, killing it. And then Deku then gets his body torn in two, like the creepy uses his teeth and his arm to tear Deku in half. But Deku's still being conscious because he's a special zombie. And then he crawls over to the creepy and starts nomming on it. And then weirdly, it does heal him. His body starts to like morph, but Deku finally gets to his other part of his body that was torn off to heal him back together. Remember, these creepers are different. These actually have burned human skin. It's still human, but still tastes disgusting to Deku, but still, he'll work with it. And so, Bakugo then tag teams with Deku with knives, and then they both put their knives into the creepy's neck, pushes upwards, and then tear the creepy's head off, killing the creepy that just almost killed Deku. But then, Deku says, Z is glad that he was able to learn most, if not all, about you, Bakugo. Me too, Z. It's glad to know that you're fighting for us, Z says. Not for you, but for Doc and Big Boy. Who? Not important. You can just leave now. Sorry, just brought up something that should not have been brought up. What are you, intelligent? What's without the Z? Z is, or Z was. Z knows how to say certain words, but not all words. Okay, Bakugo? Yep, it does. Well, then Bakugo pats on Deku on the shoulder. To see you again, alright? And then Deku pats Baku's shoulder more awkwardly than the other one. To see you again, hopefully, Bakugo. And then they switch spots, and Baku goes to the car, while Deku just starts walking off. And that's where I'm going to leave things right now. Like, subscribe, hit the post notification bell. Liking helps with the algorithm. Subscribing helps me get more popular, which makes me happy because people like my content. Hitting the post notification bell notifies you every single time I post one of these if you like them. Goodbye. Obviously, you need to turn off the